Hey math friends, welcome. Today we are going to start something new. So yesterday you were practicing rational numbers, comparing them on that number line, things like that, putting them on the number line. Today we're going to start adding rational numbers. Remember, a rational number is any number that can be represented as a fraction with two whole numbers as numerator and denominator. So let's just review really quickly absolute value. So remember, that's how far from zero that number is, or which one has the greater magnitude. So we have 7, we have negative 12. Which one is further from zero? Negative 12 is further from zero, even though it's more negative. So just a reminder, we put those two bars on either side of the number when we're asking for absolute value. And I'll show you in just a sec why we're talking about this. So yesterday, you ordered rational numbers and you put them on a number line. Now we're going to talk about a zero pair. So we're talking about numbers that are opposite each other on a number line when we have a zero pair. So negative 5 and 5. On a number line, those are opposite. So if this were to be 0, negative 5 and 5 are opposite each other. Negative 10 and 10 are opposites. Negative 8 and 8 are opposites. That means that if I put those together, if I have positive 5 and I have negative 5, I take away 5, that's 0. Okay, so those numbers add to 0. So for negative 5 plus 5, we've already done that. That would give us 0. 1/2 plus negative 1/2. Same number digits, but the sign is different, so we know that those are going to equal 0. Or if I have negative 25 plus 125, that would give me 0 as well. So those are zero pairs. So an example of a zero pair is thinking about money in a bank and credits and debits. So if I have a zero balance, I have a credit, which means I put money in the bank. That's a positive 250. And then I have a debit, I spend $250. That takes away the money in my bank, so they balance out to 0. So that's an example of a zero pair. So now let's move on to adding rational numbers. So I'm going to give you, and I say it's a rule, it's not a rule, it's just guidelines on how we add rational numbers. So if they are the same sign, we're going to add the numbers together and keep the sign. So our examples, positive numbers, we know how to add positive numbers. 4.5 plus 4.5, that gives me 9. If I have the number 1 plus 1, that gives me 2. But now I have a negative 1 plus negative 1. Okay, so let's think about this. If I have a number line, zeros here, I've got negative 1, so I've got this many negative 1s. And I take away 1, or I have negative 1, that gives me more negative. So how many negatives do I have? That would be negative 2. All right? So negative 2. And then if I have negative 5 plus negative 6, how many negatives do I have? I've got 5, and then I've got 5 plus 1 more, so that's 10 plus 1 is 6. So I've got 10 plus 1 is 6. 10 plus 1 is 11. So I've got negative 11. Okay? So let's look at this. I've got negative 6, negative 10. How many negative numbers do I have? I have negative 16. So I'm adding the numbers together, keeping the sign. Negative 7 plus negative 3. How many negatives do I have? 7 plus 3 equals 10. So negative 10. And then I have this fraction, negative 7/3 plus negative 2/3. Remember, adding fractions, denominator has to be the same. 3 is the same for both fractions. And we add the numerators. So negative and negative, I know I want to know how many of those I have. So 7 plus 2 is 9/3. And don't forget your negative symbol. Okay? And when you have fractions that are negative, you might see the negative sign out in front of your fraction, or you might see it up on the numerator as it is on here, okay? So either one of those is correct, all right? Now, if we have different signs, we're going to do something a little different because we have, and I'll show you the example on a number line, but we're taking away and adding and doing something odd. So we're going to subtract our numbers, and then we're going to keep the sign of the larger number. Now, when I say subtract, I don't mean subtract the negative numbers and all that stuff. I'm saying subtract the digits, okay? So, oh my goodness. So I have 8 plus negative 5. Or I might have it written 8 plus negative 5 with that negative 5 in parentheses. That's the exact same thing, but sometimes you might see it in parentheses to separate it from the plus sign, okay? So, first thing we're going to do is subtract the larger minus the smaller number. So we're going to do 8 minus 5. Well, 8 minus 5 is 3. Totally cool. Now we're going to keep the sign of the larger number. So, which digit is bigger, 8 or 5? 8. There's more in 8 of something than there is in 5 of something. So, is 8 positive or negative here? 8 is positive, so the answer is positive 3. Okay? So let's do a few examples. And I'm going to, rather than use my counters, I'm going to draw some counters on here because I think it's easier sometimes to look at it with counters. So we have negative 4 plus 2. So I'm going to create negative 4 using counters just to kind of show you what this works like. And then I have positive 2. Okay, here's where we use our 0 pairs. So I have negative 4 plus 2. If we were going to use counters, we're going to make 0 pairs. How many positives, how many positives do I have? I have 2. How many negatives? I've got 4, but I want to get rid of these positives and see how many negatives I have left. So I'm going to find a 0 pair. So that's a pair that makes 0, and a pair here makes 0. Well, how many do I have left? I have 2, but is it positive 2 or negative 2? It's negative 2. So that's how you can see it visually. Now let's use our algebra method. So first thing we're going to do is subtract the digits. 4 minus 2. That gives me 2. Second thing, which one is larger, 4 or 2? 4. And that 4, remember up here, was negative 4. So that means our answer is going to be negative 2. So this would be an algebra way to solve it here, and the counters would be a visual way to solve it, okay? And let's look on our number line just to make sure we're good. So if I have negative 4, so I'm over here at negative 4, and I want to add 2. Well, if I'm adding on a number line, I go to the right. And I go 1, 2. 1, 2 would stop at negative 2. Okay? All right, so let's look at another one. 5 plus negative 9. So if I had counters again on this one, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have negative 9 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so let's make some 0 pairs. All right, I've got 1 positive, 1 negative, that makes 0. 1 positive, 1 negative makes 0. Positive, negative makes 0. Positive, negative makes 0. Positive, negative makes 0. Okay, great. What do I have left over here? I've got 4, and it is negative. So my answer is negative 4. Now doing it the algebraic way, we're going to do the first thing is subtract 9 minus 5. I get 4. Second thing I'm going to do is look at my numbers. Which one's bigger, 9 or 5? 9 is bigger than 5 or larger than 5, but it is a negative 9 up here. So I know that my answer is negative 4. Okay? And the reason why we need to make sure we use the algebra method eventually is because when we do decimals and fractions, you're not really going to be able to use the counters, and so that kind of becomes an issue. All right, 2 more examples, and we're going to only use the algebra method this time. So, -2 plus 8. First thing, I'm going to subtract my numbers. 8 minus 2 is 6. Okay, which number is bigger, 2 or 8? 8. And 8 is positive, so I know it's positive 6. I could put a plus, but really I know that positive is just no sign. Okay? And then the last one, 5 plus -1. 5 minus 1 is 4. And 5 is the larger number, and it's positive, so my answer is positive 4. And we're going to dive into this more and talk about the rational numbers and adding and subtracting with fractions and decimals tomorrow. But for today, I want you to make sure you get your notes done, okay?